welcome back. So today I'm gonna give you a few recipes actually. I am leaving here in about an hour to go pick up my dad from the airport. I'm super excited about that. I haven't seen him in over a year. And so with that, I am making dinner now at 9 o'clock in the morning instead of later tonight. And that's so I can be intentional and be with him tonight and not have to worry about making dinner. And we won't get home until around dinner time anyway, so it just makes sense to make it ahead of time. The way that I am able to make it ahead of time is because of a meal plan. So before we get started with what we're making, I want to talk a little bit about meal plans. So if you followed me for a while, you know that I am a big advocate for meal plans. And the reason is if you're gonna cook like this and cook completely from scratch, you gotta have a plan. Without a plan, it's actually really hard to do. Not impossible, but it's kind of hard to do. So knowing what I was gonna make today made me more prepared this morning to be able to get out of the house early enough to leave to go to the airport. So I had already taken out my meat the night before because I knew what I was gonna make today. I didn't have to think about it this morning. I already know. I know I have the ingredients. I know everything. Today we are going to make enchiladas and Spanish rice. And so I'll link both of the recipes in the description. Well, the enchiladas, I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I always do for the mixture. But for the sauce, the enchilada sauce, I'll go ahead and link that. And then the Spanish rice, I'll go ahead and link that. But the cool thing about having a meal plan is that you don't have to think about it when it comes time to do it. You can just jump in and get it done. So it makes the process a lot faster. I do have a post out on how I meal plan. Right now, I've tried all different ways, but right now I go a week at a time and I plan all meals. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we homeschool, so everybody is here and I feed everybody 3 meals a day here at home. And so it just makes the most sense for me to have a meal plan for all meals so I don't have to think about it. I sit down on Sunday nights and I do it. I usually do my meal plans in a day planner. And that's just so I can look back and not have to come up with something new every single time. I can get inspiration, get ideas, look back to the winter months when I need to, and all of that. So I usually do it right in my day planner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I do that on Sunday afternoons, which I will link the post on how I share how I make my meal plan if you are interested in that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm gonna get a pot out and we're gonna make our Spanish rice. This is going to take about 30 minutes to cook. Once the Spanish rice is done, I'm gonna go ahead and pop it into my crock pot and keep it on warm. That way it is ready when we get home. Since it takes about 30 minutes, I didn't wanna have to throw it together when we got home. So I'm gonna go ahead and make it now and put it in the crock pot. While the rice is cooking, then we'll go ahead and make our enchiladas. To double this recipe since I am feeding my family of 5, my father, and of course our ranch hand that eats with us lunch and dinner. I know I'm gonna need a little extra Spanish rice. We have quite a few big eaters in our family, so I'm gonna go ahead and double this. If we don't eat it all, it makes a really good leftover to throw in some kind of a taco bake or something like that. So it's no problem if we have leftovers. So the recipe calls for 1/4 cup of avocado oil. I'm gonna go ahead and add in 1/2 cup. Okay, so now I have some diced onion here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stove on to about medium, and I'm gonna put in 1/4 cup of diced onions. Since I'm doubling it, this is about 1/2 cup. I honestly don't measure it too much. I just kind of throw it on in. All right, my onion is sauteing, and to my pot, I'm gonna go ahead and add in 4 cloves of garlic. The recipe calls for 2 cloves, but again, since I'm doubling, I'm doing 4. Now you're just going to stir this all around and let it get just a little bit translucent and golden. Okay, now I'm gonna add in 3 cups of white rice. The recipe calls for 1.5, so 3 cups would be double that. And I'm gonna let this get just a little bit golden brown before I move on to the next step. All right, now that my rice is a little bit golden, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my chicken broth. I'm gonna do 6.5 cups of chicken broth to my 3 cups of rice. The recipe calls for 3 1/4 cup, so double that is 6.5. Okay, to my water here, or my broth, I'm gonna go ahead and add in 5 teaspoons of salt. The recipe says 2.5. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do 1 full teaspoon of paprika. I'm gonna do a pinch of parsley. And a pinch of oregano. We'll give this all a stir. Now here is where you can do some variations. So I'm going to add in a 1/3 cup, or I'll double that, of pureed tomatoes. So either you can use a tomato sauce, you can use a bunch of fresh tomatoes and just puree them up in a blender, whatever fits your fancy. I don't have any fresh tomatoes on hand. I've also used my frozen tomatoes, defrosted them and blended them up. But what I'm going to do today is I have some tomato paste, and so I'm going to take tomato paste and do about 2 tablespoons of that, and then fill the rest with water to rehydrate that tomato paste, and I will use that as my tomato substance for the Spanish rice. Okay, now you're just gonna give this all a stir, and then you're gonna turn it down to low and let it cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. As soon as it comes back to a boil, I'll go ahead and cover it with a lid, and then I'll just stir it periodically so that it doesn't stick to the bottom of my pot, but I'm gonna let it go. Once it's all done cooking and the rice is soft, then I'll go ahead and stick it into my crock pot on warm so that it will stay warm until we're ready to eat it tonight with our enchiladas. Okay, while our rice is cooking, I am gonna go ahead and get the red enchilada sauce made up. It actually is very, very quick, so one thing to remember is to get all of your ingredients ready and out and even measured, because it goes really, really fast. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take all of our spices and we're gonna put it into a little bowl so that everything is ready to go and you just have to dump it right on in. Okay, so I just have my little bowl here, and I'm going to do all of my dry ingredients, so the spices and the flour. So I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of gluten-free flour. If you don't need to be gluten-free, you can just do regular flour. I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of chili powder. One teaspoon of cumin. A 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm gonna do 1/4 teaspoon of oregano. As you can see, I'm not changing out my teaspoon. I'm just doing it by eyeballing it. Really, this is all to taste. So if it's too spicy, do less chili powder. If it's too garlicky, do less garlic powder. It's totally up to you on this. This is what the recipe calls for, and we like it just like this. It's not a super spicy red enchilada sauce. I'm gonna do 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I use a really good Redmond sea salt, so I might even do a little bit more. And then here's a secret ingredient. This is totally optional, but highly recommended, is a pinch of cinnamon. Now, I just kind of dip my spoon in there and get a little bit out. It does really enhance the flavor of your enchilada sauce. I have my whisk here. I'm just gonna whisk it all together. If my garlic powder has any clumps, I'll try and get those out. And then I'll set this aside. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to do 3 tablespoons of avocado oil into your pot. Okay, so here is how fast it goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my stove. I'm gonna turn it to about medium, and I'm gonna let this oil heat up. Now I don't wanna add anything to it until my oil is nice and hot. This might take a few minutes depending on your stove. I have a gas, so it's gonna go really quickly. How you know when it's ready is if you sprinkle a little bit of your flour mix into it and it sizzles and already starts to get hardened a little bit and thick, then you know that it's ready to dump all of it in. You wanna make sure that you don't put it in until your oil is nice and hot. After that, everything goes really, really fast, and your enchilada sauce will be ready to go in no time. Okay, my oil is nice and hot, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in my flour mix and spices. And I'm gonna whisk it around and let it make a paste and get nice and thick. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. So I use this one for the Spanish rice, which I did right on Azure Standard. And that's kind of the reason why I also used tomato paste for that, was because I knew I was gonna use it in the sauce, so it uses up the whole can. Okay, and now I'm just gonna whisk this around and remove any clumps. Now we'll go ahead and add in 2 cups of water. Normally I would use chicken broth, but I'm running low and I didn't want to use it for this, so I went ahead and just did water. Chicken broth does give it a little bit more flavor, but I find with all the spices, it's not much of a difference to add water. So now you're just going to whisk it and let it become a nice thick sauce. Letting it cook. I still have it here on medium, and I'll leave it there as it starts to thicken. Okay, our sauce is nice and thick, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my heat. If you have an electric stove at this time, you would just remove it off. Since I have gas, it's instant on, instant off, so I don't worry about taking it off of the burner. You're gonna go ahead and add in 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. Pepper to taste. Now, my family doesn't like a whole lot of spice, so I don't do a whole lot of pepper. That is completely up to your family. After I mix all of this in, then I'm gonna go ahead and give it a little taste test. If I need a little bit more salt, I'll add salt or any other spice. I might add just a touch more salt. And now we are ready to set that aside and get our enchiladas made up so that we can use that to pour right on top. Okay, so for the mixture of these enchiladas, I'm just going to take a pound of ground beef. Honestly, you can make the same enchilada sauce and do enchiladas any way you want with any meat. Sometimes I use ground beef, sometimes I use shredded beef. I'll take a roast and cook it ahead of time and use that. Sometimes I use shredded chicken. It just depends on what I want to do at that moment. So I'm going to go ahead and cook This meat, I'm gonna add some taco seasoning to it. And really, I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants on the mixture. I don't really have a recipe for it. I add some taco seasoning, a little bit of salt, and then I'm gonna brown the meat. I'll probably add in some sour cream, make it a little creamier, add in just a little bit of the red enchilada sauce on it, and then we'll be ready to stuff all of our tortillas and get them into the pan to pour the rest of the sauce over them. Okay, now that I have all my mixture mixed up, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting my enchiladas together. I decided to do my gluten-free ones with green sauce, and I get this green sauce. It's by Sweet Creek, and I get it on Azure Standard. I can link Azure Standard in the description. And then I have my red enchilada sauce that I will do for the not gluten-free. My kids prefer green sauce, since I do too. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of red sauce at the bottom of my pan. And I'm gonna put a little bit of green sauce at the bottom of this one. I have greased both of my baking dishes here. For the gluten-free, I'm gonna use the CSA almond flour tortillas. We really like those, and I love the CSA brand. And then for the regular, I'm gonna go ahead and just use regular flour tortillas that I get at Costco. All right. So basically what I'm gonna do is take each tortilla, put a little bit of mixture in it. Put a little bit of red sauce in it. And a little bit of shredded cheese. Now I'm just gonna roll it up. And place it right here in my pan. And I'm gonna do that with all of the tortillas. With the gluten-free, I'll just switch out, instead of red sauce, do green sauce, and get all of my tortillas rolled up and ready to go. Okay, we got all of our enchiladas made. A pan of gluten-free with almond flour tortillas, and a pan of regular, one green sauce, one red sauce, and we are ready to go. I'll pop these in the refrigerator, and they'll hang out there until tonight when we get back home, and then I'll bake them in the oven. I'm going to get my rice into the crock pot to stay warm all afternoon, and we will have dinner ready in no time this evening. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video. I send out one new video every single week. Jump on over to the blog and put in your email address over there. I send out an email a week with this week's video, recipes, and all of the links that you will need for the week. I hope this video was helpful, and go get yourself some enchiladas made and use homemade enchilada sauce because it is so easy to do. I will see you next time. Take care.